Today we are going to be making Rolland. This is Rolland. He's a roly-poly from my book series Tales of Whimsy. And you get to meet him in the first book, WISHWEAVER, and he's also in the second book, The Wayward Wind. So today what we're going to do is we need to gather our supplies first. We are going to need the little pink markings, which are done with this pink yarn here with the tapestry needle. You're gonna need the embroidery thread. This is 6 strands, so your normal set of embroidery thread that you buy comes with 6 strands. So you're gonna need all 6 for this one, and then this is just black thread that I doubled up. So I tied it at the end with a knot, and then it's 2 strands right there, okay? And that's gonna be used on his mouth to make that shape where he's got that cheeky grin, okay? So other than that, you're gonna need this light gray color. I've used Red Heart Super Saver. Works really well with amis, making amigurumis. This is light gray. I'm also going to be using Red Heart Super Saver, the color charcoal, so it's that dark gray color. And then last, what I've bought is I've gotten these little guys. They're called bonbons. They're by Lion brand, and they come wrapped in these nice little papers, but I'm going to be using the black and the white bonbon threads because they're a lot thinner than traditional yarn, and I don't want his antenna to be super thick. So I'm going to use a smaller hook size, and I'm also going to use a thinner thread in order to get a smaller size for these antennas, okay? They're not stuffed, but they do keep their little shape however you want them, which is really nice, all right? You're also gonna need 2 safety eyes. This is a 6mm safety eye. You'll also need your stitch marker and a pair of scissors as well. So for this pattern, I've actually used 3 different size hooks. It's not required, but this is what I felt worked best for this pattern. For the main body, I used the size E, which is a 3.5mm hook. For his antenna, done with the bonbon thread, I used the B size because I wanted the smallest one that I had, and that's 2.25mm. And then for his little feet down here in the black yarn, that's just standard black yarn, so you will need that as well, but that I did in size D hook, which is 3.25mm, okay? Again, you don't have to do that. It just gave me the size that I wanted. When you make the size of the hook smaller, it makes the piece itself smaller, okay? Because it makes the stitching tighter. So if you want the feet to be a little bigger, just continue on using your E hook. You can do that as well. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start out making his little head. This is what it's gonna look like when it's all finished, okay? So we're starting from the bottom and working our way to the top of his head. So go ahead and get your size E hook, your light gray yarn, and your stitch marker, and let's get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to do a magic ring, and we're gonna do 6 single crochets in a magic ring. That's the round 1. So what I like to do is called a double magic ring. I do have videos for how to do these different techniques if I'm going too fast. You can always check those out. And I held it with my back 2 fingers. I'm gonna go around once, twice, 3 times, okay? I'm gonna go under the first 2, over the last one there, and then pull that loop up. You're making a shape of an A, okay? Pinch it with your fingers here to slip your fingers out. You can see the A better there. All right, make sure your working yarn is still in your back fingers. Yarn over, pull through, and that creates the circle that you're gonna work into, okay? You can see there's 2 rounds. That's why it's called a double magic ring, because you got the 2 threads here. All right, now you're gonna go ahead and work your single crochets. So we're going into the center of the circle, making sure you're going around all of those. So see, there's 1, 2, and the tail. Okay, going in, yarning over from the back, pull forward, yarn over, and pull through. That's 1. Go in through the circle, yarn over from the back, pull forward, yarn over, and pull through. There's 2. Going into the back, yarning over from the back, pulling forward. That's 2 loops. Yarn over again, pull through. That's 3. And then we're gonna do 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll see the braid along the outside edge. Looks like little V's. Okay, now in order to make it a nice tight circle, we're going to start to pull gently this tail and see which of those two pulls in first. So it's this one, okay? This one pulls in first. Grab that loop and pull it tight, okay? So that will tighten that center. So now you see that it's tight, but you got your loop here. Now take your tail and pull that one tight. All right. The double magic ring is a technique I like to use because I feel that there's not going to be any loosening of that center circle. I don't want it to over time loosen, and so that's why I do the double magic ring. All right, so now we've done our first round. We're going to put our stitch marker on this loop that's around our hook. All right, now we're going to start round 2. Round 2 is to increase around. So increasing means that you're going to do 2 stitches in each of the stitches from the prior round. So we're going to go in underneath that braid, okay? Now we're under it, you can see it there. Yarning over from the back, pulling forward. Now we've got 2 loops, yarning over and pulling through. We're just doing single crochets. Now, since we're increasing, we're going into that same stitch and we're doing another single crochet, okay? So there's 2 single crochets in each of these stitches around. So now we're going to the next one and we're gonna do 2 single crochets in that one, okay? Now we're going to the next one and we're gonna do 2 single crochets in that one. And we're gonna do that all the way around until we get to the end of round 2. Okay, so we've gotten all the way around. Now you should have 12 stitches on the outside of your round, and you can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, now you're going to take your stitch marker out, put it on the current loop that's on your hook to start round 3. And now you're going to check your pattern for round 3, which is single crochet and then an increase, and that pattern repeated all the way around. Okay, so there's a single crochet in the next one here. And then in the next stitch, you're going to increase, which means you'll do 2 single crochets in that same stitch. Okay, now you go back to doing a single crochet. And then you do another increase. So 2 single crochets in that one stitch. Now we're going to do another single crochet and another increase. And do that same pattern all the way around for round 3. Okay, we've finished round 3. You should have 18 stitches around the outside. We're going to move our stitch marker now to the one that's the working loop on our hook. And we're going to begin round 4. For rounds 4 and 5, we're going to just be single crocheting around. So 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Your count, your outside count of 18 will not change. You're going to stay the same, okay? So we're just repeating it. What this is doing is it's going to start building up the circle part. So when we've done our increases evenly around, we've just been extending the size without actually creating any shape, right? We've had a very two-dimensional flat circle. Now we're going to be building it up so that it becomes more of a sphere. So we're doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Do that for 2 rounds, okay? So I will meet you back at the end of round 5. Okay, so I have gone through round 5. As you can see, we're starting to create that spherical shape for his head, okay? Now let's go ahead and move our stitch marker to our working loop here. Okay, now we're gonna do round 6. We're gonna do 1 single crochet and then an invisible decrease and do that pattern all the way around. So now we're going to be making the circle on the other side, closing off the circle, okay? And starting to create that head shape. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch. Now to do an invisible decrease, what you want to do is going into the front loop only. So on your V here, you just want this front loop. Okay, now go into the next stitch's front loop. All right, so now you've got 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over from the back, and then you're going to pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the last 2 loops, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and going into the next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet through both loops, just as usual. Now we're doing another invisible decrease, again through the front loops only. You're going to go ahead and go around through the front loops of the next 2 stitches, yarn over, pull through those first 2 stitches, yarn over, and pull through those 2 stitches, okay? Keep doing this same pattern all the way around Let's just do one more invisible decrease together through the front loop only, going into the next one, front loop only, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, okay? Do that same thing around. I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I finished the round. I've moved my stitch marker, as you can see. Next, we need to go ahead and place the safety eyes, all right? So I've got the other Rolland's head here. And what you're gonna do, and I'm just gonna show you on this one that's already done, you can see your rounds. So see, there's the magic ring. That was your first round. The next one is the second, then the third, and so forth. What you need to do is you're going to count up the rows, you're going to go between the rows in those holes that are left between the stitches, okay, in order to place these safety eyes. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're going between rows 4 and 5 to place our safety eyes. So making sure, I always make sure the stitch marker's at the back. This will be the front of my face here. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 and 5 here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put my first safety eye in. Okay, I'm not putting the backs on yet because I wanna make sure I got the placement the way I want it. For the other one, if you look here, if you count these as stitches, there's 1, 2, 3, and you're kind of in the 4th one there. Then you go 1, 2, 3, and then we're over in the 4th one there. So as you can see, the eyes look the same. They look the same distance apart. They've given me enough space to do his little mouth. Okay, now that you've got the eyes where you want them, you need to go ahead and put the backings on. So you're kind of going to flip it a little bit inside out here. If you look at the backings, they are domed, okay? You want the flat side to be on the base here and have the dome part facing out. All right, so I always get the first click in, and for these ones, it usually clicks about 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And you just feel that last one. It doesn't really click as much as the other ones do. Okay, now I'm going in for the other one. I'm gonna flip it inside out again, put the flat side down, click once just to hold it in place, and then 1, 2, 3. All right, perfect. Okay, so the safety eyes are now in. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do the embroidering on the face before we finish off the head and stuff. All right, so first let's go ahead and do his little smile. So you're gonna wanna grab your embroidery threads. Again, I've got 2 needles here. One is with the double strand here of just regular old black thread. And then the other one has my embroidery thread with the 6 strands. So let's grab the one I have here with the 6 strands. All right, so I am gonna go on the 4th row. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where I want my smile to be, okay? So you want it to, what you're gonna do, you put a knot on the end and that will be hidden inside. All right, you're gonna go between the fibers. You don't wanna go in one of those holes in between the stitches because the knot will just pull through. So you wanna go in between the fibers and that traps the knot on the inside, okay? So you can see I've got a little bit of a distance here, just a couple of millimeters there. And then I'm gonna do the same. You wanna make sure that you're going in the same distance from each eye on the same row, okay? Now go ahead and pull that down. All right, perfect. I always stick the needle kind of in the back to hold it while I grab my other yarn or my other strand of thread here. Now this is the one that's going to help shape the smile, however you want it shaped. Now I'm gonna go ahead and again, going in between stitches so that it's not going to pull my knot through. Okay, now go ahead and you're gonna go around the embroidery thread of his smile here and go back into that same spot that your thread is coming out of right now. And that will pull the smile down. Okay, and then I usually go ahead and just do that around a couple of different spots on there just to really secure the smile how I want it. Okay, now I'm going to set that one in the back. I'm going to grab the other thread here, the thicker thread, and I'm going to do just that little mark on the side. It kind of makes him look like he's got like a half grin. All right, so I'm going to bring it back over here and then just have it come down. It doesn't need to be very long. Okay, and there you go. There's his little smile. So as long as you're happy with that, you're going to go ahead and tie off your 2 strands of black thread on the inside of your work. So what I like to do is I just grab, I don't go all the way through, just grabbing some of the fibers on the back here. Okay, and then before I pull it through, I'm going to go back in through that loop and then tie it off. And then do that a couple of times. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to be secure. Okay, that one's done, and then we'll go ahead and do this other one here. All right, so Rolland now has his smile. The next thing he needs are his little cheek marks. So you got your pink yarn here. We've got it knotted on the end, and I have it on a tapestry needle. Again, you need to come through the fibers. You may need to wiggle it a little bit because of having such a thick needle for this yarn here. You could use pink embroidery thread if you wanted to. That would also work. It's your choice, whatever you have handy. Okay, you can see if I pull it, it's not coming out. That means it's nice and secure. Okay, you're just gonna go over, not too long. You don't want the cheek marks to be too wide. Just that little, just little tick marks, 2 of them on either side. Okay, so here's one. And then there's 2. Okay, now you're gonna go in on the other side. You could tie this off if you want and then do another one on the other side. I just make sure I don't go too tight with it because the stuffing will also hold it in place on the inside. Okay, so there's 1. And 2. Okay, now he's got his little cheek marks. We're going to go ahead and tie the pink off on the inside. Next thing you want to do is grab some stuffing. You're not going to need too much for his little head. You just want to make sure to work the stuffing around those safety eyes, okay? Because they will try to pull his face different directions because of how thick the backing is. So you just want to make sure you tuck stuffing underneath and around so that the post just goes straight onto the inside instead of being stuck to one side or the other. Okay, once you've got your stuffing in there, you're going to use your finger here to hold it in while you are still working your stitches around. For round 7, we're going to invisible decrease around, okay? So again, we're going through the front loops only, and you're just going to repeat that same pattern all the way around doing invisible decreases. This is to tie off the top part of the head so that his little sphere can be spherical. Okay, so at this point, I've finished the round. I've taken out my stitch marker because this is the end. You can always try to stuff in a little bit more stuffing now that you've gotten the circle a little bit more closed off. Okay, so I've gotten a little bit more stuffing in there. It's nice and round. I'm gonna go ahead and do a slip stitch in this next stitch here just to tie off my thread. Go ahead and cut it away. And then you're gonna pull that tail through the loop that's left and pull it tight. Now we do have a gap on the top that we need to close. So what you need to do is grab your tapestry needle. That's the nice thick needle with the large eye hole. Thread it through. Okay, and now what we're gonna do to close is you're gonna go through the front loops only, weaving around. So when they say weave in ends or fasten off, this is fastening off, this is weaving in ends, okay? So you're gonna go in through the front loop towards the middle, then from the middle towards the outside, and that's creating that weave. Now go into the next one, going in from the outside to the middle, from the middle back to the outside on the next, okay? And again, because you have 6 stitches here, you'll have to do this 3 times, all right? And now you pull it gently and that will close that hole up for you, okay? So the ending circle looks a little different from your magic ring, and that's okay. That's what it's supposed to look like. So now I want to go ahead, and I usually go in through the middle. I come out somewhere else, okay? He's going to have a cap on, so I'm going to come out through the back because you're not even going to see the back of his head. It's going to be hidden by a cap. And even still, the way you do this so that it's not as noticeable where you tie off is you're just going to pick up a stitch, making sure you get that entire amount of thread on that yarn. You don't want to split the fibers or anything like that, okay? And then create a loop, go through the loop, and then I like to tie it off in a knot. Now lift the knot up so you can see where you need to go in. You're going into that little hole right there, coming out somewhere else, and then as you watch the knot, it gets tucked on into the inside, okay? And that's nice and secure. It's not coming out. It's not going anywhere. You're going to take your scissors, clip away this strand of yarn, and then take your hook and just wiggle it through underneath, and that'll pull that end on the inside of your work, okay? So now we've got his head all finished. They're not all gonna look the same. You can see his mouth here is a little wider, and that's okay. You know, the beauty of these is that they are unique. Every single one that you make is unique. The next thing that we're gonna make on Rolland here is we're gonna work on his body. Now it's an inner body here. You can just see it a little bit, and it's striped. So that's the piece that we're gonna make next, that this outer shell will go on top of. So for this one, you're gonna need both your light gray and your dark gray yarns, continuing on using your E-hook and a stitch marker, okay? All right, so to start the body with light gray, we're gonna go ahead and do 6 single crochets in a magic ring. Again, make your backwards L, wrapping it around from the back there. There's 1, 2, and 3. Hold it with your thumb, going under those last 2 loops, up and over that first loop, and pulling that first loop forward. Make your A, pinch the side to get your middle finger out, let go of the working tail here, but holding on to that circle still. Yarn over from the back, pinch it here to hold it, and then pull through so that you've gotten it set for you. Now you've got your 2 loops and your tail, okay? Give yourself a little slack here with your working yarn. We're gonna go ahead and do 6 single crochets into this center here of the ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, okay? We've done our 6 single crochets. Now we're gonna start to pull our tail, and that will tell us which of the 2 loops we need to pull first. So it's this back one here. So I'm gonna pull it tight, and that's gonna close our circle. Now take your tail and pull that tight, okay? Perfect. Now put your stitch marker on. You've just finished round 1. Okay, still continuing on with the light gray color. We're not switching yet. We're gonna go ahead and start with 1 single crochet. So let's go ahead and grab that first stitch here, making sure you go through both sides of the V. I'm just gonna lay this tail across and work around it. You're gonna do 1 single crochet first, okay? Next, after that, we're doing an increase. So let's go ahead and do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So here's 1, and there's 2. Then we're doing 2 single crochets. I'm going to tuck that tail back now. Go ahead and do, here's 1 single crochet in the next, and then another single crochet in the next. Okay, there's 2 single crochets. Another increase, so that's 2 single crochets in the next. 2 increase, all right. And then finish off this round by doing 1 more single crochet. Okay, and just to explain what we did increases on either side and single crochets on the edges, right? That's creating an oval shape. So just to explain how the thought process is behind pattern creating, if you're ever interested in making your own patterns, we increased on the ends to create that buildup, and then we kept the same single crochets so that we didn't add on any extra width, right? That created that oval shape. We need to switch to the dark gray yarn, okay? So what I actually like to do is I like to do it in the last stitch of the prior round. Okay, so you just pull out that last bit. You're going to keep those last 2 loops here from your single crochet. And as you're finishing that single crochet, what you're going to do is you're going to grab your dark gray, leaving a tail, put it over your hook like that, and just pull that through to finish off the round. All right, now find your working yarn. You're now starting the next round, so you're going to put your stitch marker now on the dark gray. So you can do with jogging, where it looks like there's a step up, and in order to do that, you would just crochet around as it says on the pattern. If you want to do one called without jogging, then I'm going to show you how you do that. For the next round, round 3, we're going to go ahead and single crochet around, okay? If you want to have jogging, you'll do a single crochet as usual in the next stitch. If you want to have no jogging and make it so it doesn't look quite as staircasey looking, you're going to slip stitch the first stitch, okay? And then you're going to go ahead and single crochet around as usual. And I'm just working over the tail there. You don't have to, but that's what I like to do to secure it. Okay, I'm tucking it back now, and I'm just going to go ahead and finish doing single crochets around with my dark gray. And I do have videos as well on my channel that talk to you more about jogging versus without jogging. But I'm just going to try to explain it quickly here. All right, so we've finished the first round. We've done a single crochet around. We're going to move our stitch marker. All right, so for the next round, we did a slip stitch here. We're just going to go ahead and do the next round as you would normally. So we're starting off round 4 with 2 single crochets. So you're just going to do 2 single crochets as usual. And I just want to show you that what that slip stitch did was it didn't build it up high. It allows the circle to connect without having a break in the circle. So just continuing on as normal, we did 2 single crochets. We're going to go ahead and do another increase. So that's 2 single crochets in the next stitch. 3 more single crochets, so 1, move to the next, there's 2, move to the next, and there's 3, all right. And then we're gonna do another increase, so that's 2 single crochets in the next. And finally, we're gonna do a single crochet, but we're going to switch colors back to the light color. We're doing a striped look. So we're going to go in, like we'll do our single crochet, pull forward a loop. Now we've got 2 loops on the hook. You're going to drop your working yarn. You're going to pick up, at this point I think it's easier just to cut away the tails from the original ones so that the only ones that you have are the ones you're working with. Okay, so let's just go ahead and cut those away. That way they're out of the way. Okay, now you just have the 2 working ones. All right, so you're switching back to the light gray. That's why I never had you cut it off, so that you could pick it up again. If you did cut it off, you can go ahead and just do another tail like you had before. All right, and pull through, dropping your dark gray. That one we'll pick up again later. Move your stitch marker. Okay, so for round 5 with light gray, we're doing single crochet around. Again, so we don't have the jogging, we're gonna slip stitch the first one. So there's 1, and then we'll single crochet around. Okay, move your stitch marker. Now we're gonna do 3 single crochets. So into that slip stitch, we're just doing a single crochet. There's 1, okay, going into the next. There's 2, and into the next, there's 3. Now do an increase, 2 in the next one, 1 and 2 in that same one. And then we're gonna go ahead and do 4 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, do another increase, so 2 single crochets in the next, and then we're going to do a single crochet switching to dark gray in that last stitch here. So going ahead and doing the 2 loops on the hook, drop your light, pick up your dark, and finish that last stitch there. Move your stitch marker. With the dark gray, we're going to go ahead in round 7. We're going to do single crochet around, starting with a slip stitch in the first, and then go ahead and single crochet around. Okay, so we've finished round 7. Round 8, we're going to do 4 single crochets. So into that first slip stitch, we'll do a single crochet. And the next, we do another. There's 2, 3, and 4. Now do your increase. Now we're going to go ahead and do 5 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now do an increase, 2 in the next one there, and then single crochet switching back to the light gray. So now we drop the dark gray, pick up the light gray, and finish that last single crochet there with the light gray. Move your stitch marker. Now with the light gray, this is the final round. With the light gray, we're going to go ahead and just single crochet around. So just do your slip stitch for the first one and then single crochets around. Okay, go ahead and slip stitch to connect. All right, and as you see, we did our color changes, and when you don't have jogging, then it looks like that circle just connects. When you have jogging, it doesn't look like it connects. It looks like there's a solid break in the line where you've connected. But as you can see here, it's a lot more invisible than if we had done it with jogging, okay? Again, I do have videos that explain those a little bit more and show you what the ones with jogging look like if you're not familiar. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and leave a tail. I'm going to need to leave this light gray here. I'm going to cut off the dark gray though. So with the light gray, I'm going to make the loop, pull the strand that's left over through the loop, and then pull tight. That's finishing it off. With the dark gray, I do like to tie it off on the inside, and that's because we just let it go. We didn't actually really fasten it in at all. So I'm going to pull it so that it's nice and tight, but not too tight. You don't ever want to pull something so that you make it actually bunch. You need to just be conscientious of that. All right, and then I'm just tying it off here. Now I can cut it away. Nobody will see the knots on the inside. And there's his little body. Okay, the underside of the body rather. All right, there we go. The next thing I'm going to make is Rolland's little cap, okay? So what this is gonna look like is it's gonna sit on top of his head with the point going in through the center between his eyes, okay? This is creating that first part of his shell. So that's gonna be this part right here where the antennae are going to be attached. So we're gonna create that cap. So what you'll need is you're still gonna need your E-hook, you're gonna need your stitch marker, and you're also going to need your dark gray yarn for this one. Okay, we're gonna do 6 single crochets in a magic ring. So again, form your hand like a backwards L. We're gonna wrap it around once, twice, and 3 times, holding it with your thumb. Go underneath the last 2 loops here, up over that first loop, and pull through so that you get that A shape. Pinch it so you can get your middle finger out. All right, now taking this working yarn in the back, yarn over your hook, so you've got 2 loops, and pull through, and that will get it nice and keep it in those nice 2 loops there. Now you want to go ahead and do 6 single crochets into this center hole here. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. Grab your tail, start to pull it to see that it's this loop that you need to hold on to, that first loop that starts to go in. Grab it and you're gonna pull it nice and tight. Okay, and now take your tail and pull that one nice and tight, and that's created your very tight, solid double magic ring to start the cap. Put your stitch marker on your working yarn here on that loop that's on your hook. The next thing we're going to do, just as we did with the head, is we're going to go ahead and increase around on the next round. Okay, what that means again is you're going to do 2 single crochets in each of the stitches, each of the 6 stitches from the prior round. And what I like to do with the tail is I lay it over the top and I start just for a few stitches here. I work over that tail, and that just helps to secure it on the inside. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's just something I've gotten used to doing. Then I tuck it to the back, and then I continue on doing my increases around. Okay, so I've done my increases around. At the end of this, you'll have 12 stitches. Go ahead and move your stitch marker. Next round, for round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase, and 2 single crochets and then an increase. You're going to do that pattern around. So we'll do 1 single crochet in the next, another 1 single crochet in the next, and then we're going to do an increase, which is 2 single crochets in the next. Okay. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, right? And then in the last of those patterns, we're going to do 2 and 1, right? Single crochet, 2 single crochets in the next. That's the pattern. Okay, so there's 1 single crochet in the next, 1 single crochet in the next, and then 2 single crochets in the next. So you'll see in patterns that they're written different ways to mean the same thing, and that can get confusing when you're new to doing crocheting. I know I found it confusing at first, and I ended up having to use the ending round numbers to kind of figure out the math and figure out why we were doing things a certain way. All right, so you finished that round. At the end, your count should be on 16 because we did 4 increases on that round. We did that pattern 4 times. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and do round 4, which is just to single crochet around. So we're just maintaining 16 stitches by just doing 1 single crochet in each of the prior round's stitches. Okay, so go ahead and do that on your own, and I'll meet you back at the end. All right, I have finished round 4. I'm going to move my stitch marker here. And round 5, we're going to create that point part that will go between Rolland's eyes. What we need to do first is we are going to do 1 single crochet in the next. So do that now. There's 1. All right, in the next stitch, you're going to do a half double crochet. Half double crochet, you yarn over to start. Now you've got 2 loops on your hook. Go into the next stitch available, yarn over from the back and pull through. Now you've got 3 loops. Yarn over again and pull through all loops on your hook. That is a half double crochet, okay? And in this next stitch, we're gonna do a double crochet, chain 2, slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, and then another double crochet, all in this next stitch. So let's do that together. Double crochet is similar to the half double crochet. You yarn over to start, just as you did before. Go in to your stitch, yarning over in the back and pulling forward. Now we've got 3 loops. Yarn over again, there's 4, but instead of pulling it all the way through, you're gonna pull through first 2 loops, yarn over again, and pull through the last 2 loops. It makes a slightly higher stitch. So you can see that we're going up, right? We've done a single crochet, next size up, half double crochet, next size up, double crochet. Now we wanna create that point, and so we're doing something like a picot here. It's a picot stitch when you do this. It's chain 2, and picots I've seen in many different sizes. You could do 3 chains or however you want, but in this one we're doing 2 chains. And if you aren't familiar with chaining, let me just show you real quick. You yarn over and you just pull through. That's a chain. It's very easy. It's one of the simplest stitches you can do. and often people will just start learning by doing chains. All right, so we've got 2 chains on our hook. We're gonna go in through the center of the V on that first chain that we made, okay? Which is also the second chain from your hook. That's what it's called. It's the second chain from your hook. Also is the first chain that we just did, okay? We're gonna yarn over from the back. We're gonna pull through, and then we're just gonna pull that loop through the last one, okay? All right, and see, you can see that it's created this little pointed shape, okay? It's a little triangular shape. Now we're gonna go ahead and do our double crochet again in that same stitch, okay? So yarn over, going into that same stitch, yarn over from the back, pull forward, yarn over again, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 more loops. So that has created your nice pointed shape for the front of his cap. All right, from there, we're gonna go ahead and then we need to make the descending side. So we've ascended up to the point, now we need to descend just like a mountain. So we're gonna go ahead and do another half double crochet. So yarn over, going into the next stitch, yarn over from the back and pull forward, yarn over again and pull through all loops on your hook. There's your half double crochet. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and do another single crochet. You can see that it's matching, right? It's matching on both sides so that it creates that nice peak look. So we're doing a single crochet, and then to finish off, we're gonna go ahead and slip stitch in the next. So going in, pulling a loop from the back, like so, and then just pull it through that loop on your hook. You're leaving the remainder of the stitches unworked. You're done. So we're just gonna leave some tail here because you're gonna connect it by sewing it to the head, and then just pull that tail through that last loop there, okay? You can take your stitch marker out. You don't need that anymore. And that's it. That's your little cap that we're gonna go ahead and sew down later to the head. The next thing we're gonna make is we're gonna make Rolland's shell. And this is gonna be what it's gonna look like before we actually sew it down to have it on his body, okay? All right, let's get started. We do need our gray, dark gray yarn, our stitch marker, same size hook, size E hook, okay? The first thing we're gonna do is, rather than doing a magic ring this time, we're gonna be doing a chain to start, all right? So leave yourself a bit of a tail here. To do a chain, you just wanna go ahead and wrap it around the once, going in on the back side, just put that strand, that tail strand, through the loop that you're making on your fingers. Pull your fingers out and then just pull it, okay? And that creates a slip knot. All right, now put that slip knot on your hook and make sure that it's nice and tight around your hook. Now what you're gonna do is you're going to chain 16. So yarn over and pull through, that's 1 chain, and yarn over and pull through, there's 2. Do that 16 for 16 chains. For this one, you will not need a stitch marker, so you can set that aside. Okay, so for the first round, you've done your chain 16. Now you're gonna single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So here's your hook. That's considered the first chain from your hook. Into the second chain from your hook. You're gonna go in through the middle of the V, to the back, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through. Going into the next one, into the center of the V, to the back, yarning over from the back, pull forward, yarn over, and pull through. And you're gonna do that all the way until you reach the other side. Because you started in your second chain from your hook, rather than having 16 at the end, you're actually gonna have 15 because you skipped 1, okay? Go ahead and do that now. All right, so I've just finished the first row, and as you can see, it's gonna start to curl, but as we work with it, it's going to stop curling, okay? So don't worry about that. So we've got 15 at the end, and rows 2 through 5 are going to be the same. So let me explain how that's gonna work. Now, you're gonna turn your work and chain 1. Okay, now this last single crochet that you did on this prior round is what you're gonna work into, but you're only working in the back loop. So if you're looking at the V, the back loop is the one that's furthest from you. We're gonna be doing half double crochets across. So you're gonna yarn over, go into that back loop only, That's what BLO stands for. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over again, and then pull through all the loops on the hook. That's a half double crochet. We finished row 2. As you can see, because we worked in the back loops, it's leaving that nice ridge there in the front, which is what's going to give the shell that nice ridged look, okay? So that it looks like a proper roly-poly. All right, so now we're going to flip it around and chain 1. All right, and now we're going to do the same thing. And this is what I meant by we're going to be repeating doing half double crochets across through row 5. So go ahead and continue on until you get through row 5 with the half double crochets across and doing the chain 1 turns at either end. So once we've done the first 5 rows here, and we just did half double crochets back and forth with the chain 1 turn on the ends, we're going to go ahead and do some decreasing here so that the shell will have some shape. So first you need to do your chain 1 and turn as usual. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the pattern half double crochet and then half double crochet decrease across, okay? And we're still doing this in the back loops only. So first we're going to do a half double crochet as usual in the back loop only. So go ahead and yarn over and then go into that back loop. Yarn over from the back, pull through, yarn over, pull through all the loops. Now we're going to do our first decrease. You're going to yarn over, go into the first back loop, yarn over again and pull forward to loop. That should be 3 loops on your hook. Go ahead and yarn over again and go into the next back loop, yarning over from the back and pulling forward. Now as you can see, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over one last time and pull through all loops on your hook. Okay, and you might have to wiggle them a little bit to get them through. And that's a decrease. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do another half double crochet. Okay, just like so. And let's do another decrease. Yarn over, go in, grab the back loop only, yarn over from the back, pull forward, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over again, going into the next loop, back loop only, yarning over from the back, pulling forward. Now we have 5 loops. Yarn over one last time and then go through all the loops on your hook. Okay, so we're doing that same pattern all the way across. So I will meet you back at the end of this row. Okay, now that we've finished doing that row and we just finished row 6, we're going to do row 7. We're going to go ahead and do a chain 1 and turn. Okay, and then on row 7 we're working now in the front loops only, and we're going to just do 5 half double crochet decreases across. So we're just decreasing all the way across here. So again, we're going to yarn over, going into the front loop, which is the loop that's closest to you on that V that you're seeing there, okay? So we're going to go yarn over, go into the front loop only, yarn over from the back, pull forward. Now yarn over again and go into the next one, front loop only, yarning over from the back, pulling forward. There's your 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and pull through all the loops on your hook to do your decrease. Do the same thing again all the way across, making sure that you're working in the front loops only. Okay? Meet you back at the end of that. Okay, so once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and pull the loop a little bit here. Give yourself some slack. Get your scissors. Okay, leave a tail. Now bring that tail through the loop and pull tight. Grab your tapestry needle. You're going to go ahead and put your tapestry needle on the end of that long tail that you've got there. Okay. Now, when you're looking at Rolland, the part that we're going to do here is we need to just stitch this side against this side, okay? All right, so you want to make sure that you see all your front loops here, okay? That's the right side of the work, all right? So go ahead and squish those 2 ends together so that you're lined up on the other side here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to whip stitch the 2 ends together. Going across and then bringing it back, just like you would attach parts together. But we're just going to stitch that little tushy end up there. Okay, and now once that's stitched, you can go ahead and put your thread back through on the underside. All right, and that is going to be where the body will rest into. It kind of creates a nice little cup for the body to rest in, okay? All right, so that is finished. Go ahead and leave your tail attached because we'll use that later on when we're sewing this part down to his little body right there. Rolland's little feet are one of the easiest things to make on this pattern. So let's get us started. We need to make 14 feet, so there'll be 7 on either side. We need to first start with a slip knot to put on our hook, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and wrap the yarn around, tuck a loop in, and pull tight, putting that on our hook. For this, I used a size D hook. This is a 3.25 millimeter hook, and so that will make the feet just slightly smaller. We've got our slip knot on our hook. We're going to go ahead and chain 2. So we yarn over and we pull through. That's 1 chain. Yarn over, pull through. There's 2 chains. Now going back into the first chain you just made, you're going into the middle of the V that it has there, to the back, yarning over in the back, pulling through. Now there's 2 loops on the hook, and then pull all the way through the loops, and that is it. All we need to do now is make this loop a little bigger, snip away, and then that working tail, pull that tail through the loop and pull tight. And that's it. That's his little foot. So you need to make, again, 14 of those, all right? When you're ready to make the antenna, you want to go ahead and get your black and white little bonbon yarns, okay? And you also want to get a smaller size hook. I'm using a size B, which is a 2¼ millimeter hook, and your stitch marker as well, okay? So we're going to first be starting off with the black. What we're going to do is we're going to do a chain 4. So I'm wrapping it around. I need to do a slip knot here. Okay, so I'm just pulling, I wrapped it around and I'm pulling up a loop, just like that. And then I'm going to tighten it around my hook. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and chain 4. So I wrap the yarn over and then I just pull it through that loop. That's a chain. So there's 1, yarn over, pull through, there's 2, yarn over, pull through, there's 3, yarn over, pull through, there's 4. All right, now what we want to do is we want to go back into that first chain that we made. We're creating a tube, okay? And I do have another video on this technique that we did for the Happy Sunflowers stem. So what you're going to do is go into the V in the middle, coming out through the back, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through that loop on your hook. So this is creating that center circle. It's very small, but where that circle is, you want to grab your tail with your hook and pull that through, okay? So that way it's around the outside. Okay, so now that we've done that, we first need to do single crochet around to finish off the first round, okay? So there should be 4 single crochets to start. You're going to be working in the back loops only around the chain. So there's 1. And I know it's very hard to see because it is black, which never makes anything easy to see, right? But do your best to pick up each individual back loop only from your chain that you just made. There's 3, and 1 more right there. And I will admit it is the hardest in the very beginning when you're first starting these small tubes. It will get easier as we work up, I promise. Okay, so you want to kind of try to form it so that it knows which direction we're going here. All right, so that way it looks like a little bowl. Now go ahead and place your stitch marker. We've just finished the first round. We need to do black single crocheting around for 2 more rounds. Okay, and now we're working into both loops, so it's going to be 4, you're maintaining that 4 stitches all the way around, And in the very last stitch of the third round, we're going to switch to white, okay? So go ahead and just single crochet around for 2 rounds, but stay on the last stitch of that third round, okay? Okay, so I'm in the last stitch of the third round. I've gone in underneath that V. Okay, now it's time to yarn over from the back. So I'm yarning over with the black, pulling forward a loop. So now there's 2 loops on my hook. Now you want to grab your white bonbon yarn. Okay, and you're just going to loop it around your hook and finish that last yarn over and pull through with the white. Now replace your stitch marker. And in order to prevent jogging, which is basically where you can see the color changes because it looks like a step, it's a very harsh break. What we're gonna do is we're going to do the jogless color change here. And I have another video on that if you're interested in seeing the difference between jogging and non-jogging. Okay, so let's find that next stitch, which you're gonna look around, let's see. Sometimes because they're so tiny and they're so little stitches, I find it easy, this is just a tip, to count back from your hook 4, so that way you can really see where you're supposed to work into. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, here we go. And now you're going to move these other little tails off to the side. We're going to go into that next stitch, yarn over, and we're going to do a slip stitch in the very first stitch from where you did your color change. Whoops. Okay, this is keeping it very low instead of building it up with a single crochet. And then you'll work the rest in single crochets as usual with your white. 2, 3, and 4. So go ahead and do the next round. We're going to do another round of white, but come back with me on that last stitch. We're going to be switching back to black. 3, and in this last one here, we're going to go ahead and switch back to black, okay? So get in your stitch here, yarn over with the white, pull forward a loop. You've got 2 loops on your hook, drop your white, pick up the black that you left behind, and then go ahead and pull through with that. Okay, you're going to yarn over with the black and pull through, and that gets you started with the black. We're going to do the same thing we did with the white in order to prevent it from jogging, right? We're going to do a slip stitch in the first stitch, and then we'll continue on doing single crochets. And we're gonna single crochet around for 2 rounds. We're going back and forth. So basically, if you'll see on this antenna, you're gonna continue going 2 rows of each color. Okay, so we're gonna do the 2 black, switching to the white, the 2 white, switching to the black, and then you just do 1 more black here on the top. I will meet you back when you're done with that, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to close this off and tie up these loose ends. Okay, so you've gotten to the end, you've done a final slip stitch, pulled up your loop, and you've pulled that thread, that last black thread through, so that's tying off, right? That was your tying off. Now you've got these ends here. So with the white tail, you can just thread your needle. I go back in through the center, coming out somewhere on the white. Okay, and then I just do the same thing I normally do by grabbing a stitch, going through my loop, and making my knot. Lifting my knot, going back in, coming out somewhere else, preferably somewhere in the white, and then you pull through until the knot tucks in. Okay, and then you can snip that one away, like so, and tuck in that little end. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we're going to thread our needle with the black. And there's a little bit of a difference on this one. Whoops. Don't you hate it when that happens? Oh my goodness. Here we go. We'll get this right. Okay, got it. Okay, So on this one, since there's still a hole here, right, where that center circle is, I know it's very small, but we still need to tie it off. So we're gonna weave through the front loops only of those 4 stitches, okay? And then we'll pull tight in order to close that little gap. So we're gonna go from the outside to the middle on the front loop only of the next stitch over. Going into the next stitch, we're going from the middle back out to the outside. Okay, so we're at the part where we're ready to assemble Rolland. Here, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take his little head and his head cap, and we're going to stitch the head cap onto the head. Okay, so the widow's peak part of it is going to sit, if you see where his eyes are, we're gonna count the rows here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So they're between rows 4 and 5. The widow's peak is going to sit on top of row 5, right here in the middle between his eyes. Okay, so that's where you want it to go. The rest should just come around the sides, and you wanna make sure that they're even before you get started. Then go ahead and thread your needle. Okay, what we're gonna do with the head cap is we're gonna work around it only using these front loops only, leaving these back loops unworked or unwhip stitched in, okay? And that's gonna create a nice little ridge, because if you know roly-polies, their shell has a lot of different layers, and so you wanna make sure you keep all those little edges. And that's why when you did your body piece, your shell piece, that you did a lot of working in the back loops only, and that created those nice ridges. Okay, so we're gonna go down into the light gray part, coming back out through the center of the V on the cap. Okay, and that will allow you to just take that front loop only. Now you're going back into the light gray, now coming back up through from the underside of the cap, through the middle of the V, and then pulling. Okay, and then just go ahead, and we're gonna be doing this all the way around to connect the cap onto the head. Okay, now we're getting towards that widow's peak, so we're gonna wanna come up in the center between the eyes where we want the widow's peak to rest. Okay, and then we're gonna be working back up the other side. Okay, so once you've worked all the way around and it's connected how you'd like it, you're gonna go in through that last one here, and then we're gonna come out somewhere else on the cap. So you can come out along the bottom if you'd like. And then we're going to pick up one of the stitches that we made, making sure not to split it in half. You wanna keep it all underneath that full stitch there. That way when we tuck this knot in, it will tuck in. Otherwise, if you split it, it won't. So we've got our loop. We're gonna go ahead and put our needle through the loop and then pull tight. That creates a loop to fasten off the thread and make sure it stays nice and tight. Then you're gonna lift up that knot, and you'll see that there's a little bit of a space or a hole underneath. That's where you wanna put your needle. Coming out somewhere else. And then when you pull, you'll see that the knot tucks in to your piece that you've been working on, okay? So now we're gonna go ahead and just cut this thread off since we're done with it. And then I use my needle here. I go in somewhere else and then I just wiggle it, and that usually tucks in the end really well. Okay, so there's his little head. So the next part we're gonna do is we need to attach this little body piece to the head, okay? So first you wanna stuff it. Okay, so now we've got our body stuffed. We're gonna go ahead and thread our needle again. Okay, now with the body, what you wanna do is you're going to make sure that you're lining up. I usually make sure where we finished off is at the bottom, okay? And you're gonna make sure that when you're looking at him, that his eyes are straight ahead, okay, and aligned with the rest of the body. You want his face to be looking slightly up so that when you put him down, that he's kind of looking up at you. Okay, so make sure that his head is looking up. You should have a little bit of that dark gray underneath here left over. You want to have that, so if you'll see that there's that striping pattern, that's going to be that last part of your dark gray here. Okay, and that will also allow him to have that looking up sort of face. Okay, so once you've gotten it aligned, you're gonna go ahead and whip stitch it down. All right, so I'm leaving some of that gray. As I said, you wanna leave part of that cap there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and go all the way around whip stitching. You're just going through both loops on the body and then picking up a stitch on the cap to secure. So going through both loops on the body, going into the cap, and then coming out somewhere else, a little bit over to the side. Double check as you're working that you haven't shifted your face. You want to make sure that it's facing forward. Sometimes as you're working to secure things, if you're not careful, your work will end up looking sideways, you know, because you haven't actually maintained where you wanted it to be. I did that many times in the beginning when I first started doing this. My characters all looked like they were looking to the side. They must have heard something interesting. Okay, so we're just going all the way around. Okay, once you've gotten to the end, again, you're gonna come out along the side on another stitch that you did at the beginning. Okay, you're gonna double check that he looks good, and he does. So we're gonna go ahead and grab one of those stitches that we made and tie it off, making a knot, lifting the knot up so we can see where the hole is underneath, coming out somewhere else, and then pull it until you see the knot tuck in. Okay, now go ahead and cut it away. And then take your needle and wiggle it to tuck that little bit in that was there. Okay, so now we've got his head and his body attached. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna need his little shell here, okay? So the shell is meant to fit onto him where this whip stitch that we did here, that's gonna fit onto his tail area, okay? And then this, if you'll notice, where we did that first single crochet, it kind of creates like the look of a coat, you know, like if somebody had a fur coat, that's kind of the look I was going for. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is you need to thread your needle, okay? You wanna fit it around him how you like, making sure, again, looking at his eyes, you always wanna make sure the eyes are facing forward and that you've gotten it aligned so that where you put his feet, it's going to align with his eyes, okay? Otherwise, if you're going like that, that's not gonna work, okay? So like, just keep looking up and looking down until you make sure that it's exactly how you want it. It's even on both sides of the face, all right? And what we're gonna do is we are going to do what's called a running stitch to connect the shell to the body, okay? So where we've come out here, I'm gonna go over just slightly next door, going into the body piece and then coming out and up. So we're leaving this outer ridge of the shell, okay? We're not gonna work that. And the reason is because we wanna keep this roly-poly as many little lines as we can so that he looks like he's got a shell and not just one flat piece. Okay, so from here we're gonna go over again and then coming up. And again, we're leaving that extra little space there. So we're just going into the stitches right alongside that shell. Okay, jumping over, okay, going down into the body. Coming up next door. Okay, pulling, you don't want to pull too tight. You don't want it to bunch. And sometimes if it's hard when you're going down into the body, if you have to jump too far forward, you can actually do a back stitch and that's just fine. Okay, it's however you can get it in there so that it's secure. However many that you have to do. You want to make sure you're getting that corner attached to his cap. Okay, that's going to connect the cap to the shell. Okay, now going, I'm going to do a back stitch here because I had to go too far forward. And I want to make Make sure that I've got extra stitches here to really secure it. So whether you're doing a back stitch or forward stitch, this is just, we're doing our little jumps. It's kind of going like this, right? Again, we're not pulling too tight, but we're making sure that we're grabbing the head underneath at this, around this last cuff here, the cap rather. Okay. We're gonna go into the corner space here, and I'm gonna do a back stitch, but I'm gonna make sure I grab that cap, and then I'll go along this side, the other side. Okay, so once you've gotten around, if you feel like you missed a spot, then you can just go in, come out wherever you think that spot is. If your running stitches didn't go close enough to each other, you can just take another tuck stitch. And you might need to do that because it is pretty tight. Okay, so just feel around, making sure everything looks like it's connected well, the corners are really nice and secure. And then when you have it the way you want it, then you're gonna do the same thing as before, where you go ahead and pick up a stitch, just making sure that you grab the entire stitch, tie your knot, lift it up, and then going in through somewhere, coming out somewhere else, pulling it just so that that knot goes through, and then clip away your excess yarn here. Okay, so there we go. Now Rolland has his shell. He's got his head, and the only thing he's missing now are his legs and his antenna. All right, when you're ready to attach his little feet, you should have 7 on either side, so you've made 14 little feet. The first of the feet you're going to attach to this dark chain here, which is from the little cap. You want to keep them along the sides of the shell, all right? And you're just going to come in on one stitch, coming out on the stitch right next to it. Okay, bring it over where the other tail is. You're going to go ahead and pick up that side. Go back down into the hole that you were just in, coming back out on the first one that you went into. Okay, and then you're going to go ahead and just pick up that first stitch that you made, and we're going to make a loop, tie it off, lift it up, find the hole, going in, coming out somewhere else on the body, and pulling until the knot tucks in. On the other side, you're going to go ahead and thread your needle, and you're going to do the same thing, but starting on the other side where your thread is coming out. So we're going in this side, going out on where the first stitch was that you made. This is just double fastening, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and go in to the foot as you did before on this side this time. Okay, coming back down in to that first side and coming back out where you went in with this side. And now on this side, we're going to go ahead and do the very same thing, tying off a knot, grabbing that loop, and pulling tight. Okay, lifting up that knot, going down into the hole, coming out somewhere else, and then pulling until the knot goes through, and that's 1 foot. Now you can clip these ends away since you're done with them, and then go ahead and take your needle and wiggle it beside it so you can tuck those little ends in, okay? You're gonna do the same thing with all of your other feet, making sure they're gonna go pretty close together, okay? So you wanna just count. You may end up doing 1 in each of the rows here, so just counting up from around here, and then counting how many you need to add. And then the same on the other side. Make sure they're as even as you can so that they look like they're right next to each other. And I will go ahead and meet you back when his feet are all finished. All right, we've done all of the feet, 7 on either side, and he stands up nice. Once you've attached the little feet and all you have left are the antenna, you want to go ahead and you want it to be equal distance from the widow's peak on top of the head cap, okay? So they're going to sit right here and right here. And all you want to do is go ahead and grab a stitch around where you're gonna have it fastened. And then you're just gonna whip stitch the antenna down around those 4 chains that you left behind in the beginning. Okay, and then just secure it until you feel like it's not going anywhere. Whether that's just once around, that's fine. That's usually how it is. Okay, just keep it going. Okay, when you're finished, oops, grab that last one there. When you're all finished, you're gonna go back around to another spot that you have a stitch that you can grab for making your little knot. Okay, and then you're gonna go ahead and pick up that loop, just as you normally do, making sure you only get that loop. Okay, and then tie it off, tucking it back down in, coming out somewhere else on the body, and then pulling it until that knot tucks in. Okay, clip it away, tuck in that end, and then you're gonna go ahead and repeat the same thing with your other antenna on the other side, and that way he'll have both of his antennas and he'll be done. Okay, I'll come back when you're all finished with Rolland. I hope you've enjoyed making Rolland with me. Here he is in the book that I wrote. This is the first book in the Tales of Whimsy series. It's called WISHWEAVER. So if you have had a chance to read it, I would love for you to let me know how you liked the book. Go ahead and leave a review on Amazon or Goodreads. You can also leave a note here for me as well. He's my little roly-poly. Isn't he cute? Look at his little cheeky grin. So now he goes along with Whimsy and Flit. If you haven't had a chance to make them, I'll go ahead and put the link down below for that playlist, and you can go ahead and make Whimsy and Flit from the book as well.